Hello and welcome to another edition of Hughes at 10. And I'm Graham Hughes, obviously. So thank you for joining me again. This is the third sort of thing I've done this week. I'm going to try and do this every night of lockdown. So if you've got some burning questions for me, don't worry, I will try and get to you and to the question at some point. Today, obviously, a couple of things to talk about. First of all, we've got the lockdown in the United Kingdom, the second lockdown that came 6 weeks too late because our leaders are fucking morons. Like the Boris Johnson, I was reading the review today of a book about him by Rory Stewart, in which he says he is the greatest liar of all time. There is no lie that he doesn't know, or he can't tell. And he really is. But the second greatest liar of all time has to be Donald Trump. And at the moment, both of them use the same techniques as con artists and gaslighters around the world. Narcissists, the textbook definition of narcissists, and these are the people in charge of these countries. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about anyone but themselves. And they are in charge of two of the most important, powerful nations in the world. I shouldn't say important because honestly, you travel around the world and people don't really think about America that much unless they're sad politics wonks like myself. In the same way that, remember before 2017, remember those days when you didn't really think about politics too much, where you didn't open up your inbox every day, your news feeds up and go, oh God, what now? Remember that? Remember when you didn't know the names of literally everyone in the cabinet of the United Kingdom? I remember those days. They were about 10 years ago. I had no clue who was in David Cameron's cabinet. I still don't really know who was in his cabinet because it didn't affect my everyday life. But now it does. Now, thanks to Trump, thanks to Brexit in the UK, this stuff affects everybody. And it means that everyone's getting on board with politics. Everyone's obsessed with politics now. I still talk about politics all the freaking time. I studied politics. It's boring. It shouldn't be turned into some spectator sport. It's not WWE. It should be bland and the politics of compromise. That's what it should be like. You know, when you watch the EU Parliament and it's boring as hell, yeah, that's how politics should be. Because you're trying to make the best decision. You're not trying to put on a show. If you want to put on a show, be a clown, be an actor, be a trapeze artist or a busker on the street. Don't go into politics, please. But unfortunately, people do. And then they moan about not getting paid enough, which is really, really rich coming from people like Trump and Boris Johnson, both of whom have complained about the money they've made as leaders of their respective countries. But happily, the situation now is that we are looking at possibly a Trump loss in Nevada, in Arizona, and quite possibly in both Georgia and Pennsylvania. So what's happening is this effect, which I'm sure everyone watching this has heard a million times this week, called the blue shift. Basically, it's really simple. Most people who vote Republican voted in person on the day. Most people who voted Democrat voted by mail earlier before the election. Now, the thing is that in a lot of states in America, when they get the postal ballots in, and the state of Oregon, I think, is just all postal ballots. When they get them in, they open them up and they count them. But in Pennsylvania, because of Republican lawmakers, they said you can't open them and read them and find out who they voted for until after the in-person votes had all been counted. And they're like, but that's going to take days. And they're like, yes, it is. And we're going to do everything in our power to nobble the postal service. We're going to put a guy in charge of the postal service who's never done anything with post ever before in his life. And we're going to make sure a few ballots go missing. We're going to try and get ballots thrown out that are completely legitimate. And we know what's going to happen is that on the day, it's going to look like Trump is ahead in certain states. And then Biden's votes, which are mostly by mail, will come in at the end and he'll overtake Trump. And then Trump can say, oh, it's a fraud. So now today we've had all these legal actions that have been taken by Trump's people. And they've all been thrown out. Every single one of them that was heard today was thrown out by the respective judge in the jurisdiction in the state that they were brought in, because there was no evidence. It's just conjecture and allegations at the moment of voter fraud. And it's amazing how people get so freaked out about this concept of voter fraud when the only person who is committing voter fraud at the moment is Donald Trump, because he's trying his damnedest to get actual genuine votes of American citizens, those votes that their ancestors have fought and died for them to have, and he wants to throw them in the bin because they're not for him. That's not democratic. Voter suppression is not democratic, and it's been going on for decades in America. And it felt like maybe they had turned the corner, maybe, but they hadn't. And this is the problem with the American system. This is just, you give these people an inch and they will take a mile. Dominic Cummings and Mitch McConnell will sit there all night because they don't have any lives, they don't have any friends. It's not like they're going to go out to a club or do anything interesting with their lives. They sit there with a list of all the laws, and they look for the little gaps in between them, the little bits that you can wiggle through, like the worms they are. And that's their MO. That's the whole plan, is to find the bits of democracy that basically are set up for people to be decent. And it goes, well, if everyone's decent, this will work. And what happens is one day someone comes along and they are very, very, very not decent. And our democracies are under threat like never before in the UK and in the US. And if Trump gets another 4 years, I don't think that the US as a nation is going to survive it anymore. I mean, the way he's gone about this, I mean, I can't see it. I can't see his presidency ending any other way if it continues, other than him having a heart attack or a war, like proper civil conflict in the US. And moving back to the UK with this lockdown that we're finally getting. Hooray, finally we get a lockdown that we've been asking for 6 fucking weeks. Oh, but, you know, another few thousand people are dead. Oh, never mind. They're only, you know, dead people. Here's Boris Johnson to make us all laugh with his funny voice and his disregard for decency and being a nice person or caring about anybody else. And both Trump and Johnson typify everything that is wrong with our society at the moment. Not just in their actions and their inactions and the fact that they just don't care. If I was in charge and thousands of people were dying on my watch, I'd freak out. I'd be like, oh my God, this isn't right. I've got to do something about this. Or even better, I might say, I'm out of my depth. I can't do this. And fucking resign and put someone who knows what they're doing in charge so they can sort out the mess that I had created. And one of the things that I learned when I was traveling around the world, I managed to go on these big container ships. And I went on about 20 of them on various journeys across the Atlantic, across the Indian Ocean, through the Pacific. And one of the things I learned very quickly was that the captain of the ship was responsible for everything. So if a pilot from a local country got on your container ship and said, there's the channel there, and the boat goes into the channel and crashes into some rocks, it's the fault of the captain, because the captain should have known better. It's not the fault of the pilot. They might be still culpable to some way, but as far as the insurance is concerned, as far as the shipping company is concerned, and the law of the sea is concerned, it's the captain's fault. If one of the linesmen accidentally lops off his leg by not standing in the right place when the rope twangs, it's the captain's fault. If there's a fire in the paint room and he wasn't there, it's the captain's fault. Why? Well, because the guy who got his leg ripped off should have been trained better and had better safety equipment so it wouldn't happen. Captain's fault. And a fire in the paint room, well, it shouldn't have been full of filthy fucking rags that are very flammable. It should have been tidied up. The captain's job is to make sure that someone else, doesn't have to do it, him or herself, but it's to make sure that the ship is run in good order. And we don't have that in politics. You can fuck up as many times as you like in politics. and it doesn't matter. And this is something important because people like Trump, people like Johnson, they fuck up over and over again. And this is the big difference between them and us, because they were born into ludicrous amounts of wealth. They grew up in absolute splendor. They never had to do a real day's work, if you want to call it that, in their lives. They probably just about know how to wipe their own arses. And so they could try setting up a business in the full knowledge that if it didn't work out, it doesn't matter, you can get some more money off daddy. Who cares? Start a new business. Boris Johnson didn't go down that route, but Trump did. And again and again and again, he failed. Now, if you or I went and did that, say, oh, I'm going to start up a business. Okay, great. Might go for a loan, which you have to pay back at 6.5%. Okay, you don't have to pay your dad back at 6.5%, really. So, okay, well, thanks for that startup loan. And then you go into business, and the business fails for whatever reason. And if you've got no backing, if you've got no support network in your community or your family, you can end up on the street. So where's the incentive for people to go out and make the most of their lives, to set up businesses, to maybe become an artist or a gymnast or a dancer or whatever you want to do with your fucking life? There is none, because you think, if I mess this thing up, then that's it. I'm out on the street. I don't have that safety net. And what society is supposed to supply is that safety net. And that safety net in the last few years has absolutely fallen apart, because rich people don't give a fuck. And we're subsidizing massively in our taxes, not the people who need to eat, not the children who are going hungry over half term, or the refugees who are fleeing their war-torn country for a better life. We're subsidizing the mates of people in fucking parliament. We're subsidizing the education of the crotch nuggets of these little fucks who are in parliament to go to Eton and Harrow and these posh arse schools where they're taught, I don't know, how to be a fucking arsehole, how to be an entitled little shit. And that's what they're well done. Why are we subsidizing that? Why is Eton, which costs 30,000 bloody pounds a year, maybe a term, I don't know, it's ridiculous. Why is that a charity? How is that a charity? Well, because jobs for the boys, we all went there, yeah, it's all right. 66% of the current cabinet of the UK, privately educated. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the disparity. I'm sick of these rich gobshites saying to everybody else, you've got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, lad. I did. No one gave me nothing. I'm like, sorry, come again. Nobody gave you nothing. Are you on another fucking planet? You went to a private school, mate. Did you pay for that? In fact, when you came out your mum, were you not given some milk? Did you make your own road to get to the school? Did you build your own school? Did you pay the teachers yourself? Did you build streetlights and sewers to flush your shit down every time you went to the crapper? Did that happen? No. You lived your life in this society built on the backs of the labour of people who aren't even fucking here anymore. You were given all that. You were given the protection of our army and our air force and our navy. And Trident, I guess, if you want to argue that much. You were given the protection of our judiciary. You were given a vote. You were given the police to make sure that a gang of yobbos don't come into your house and murder you. You were given all that for nothing. Don't say no one gave you anything because you didn't take benefits. Because I'm sure you probably take tax credits. Family tax credits. Oh, I've had a child. Here you go. Have some money. But I'm already rich. We don't care. Here's some money. Can you give it to, I don't know, the people who are literally going without food? And then maybe we don't need so many food banks. We could actually just have food for people. No, I can't give it to them. They're lazy. They didn't work for their money. You've got to work for your money. That's the important thing. But hang on, you inherited 50 million pounds off your father. Well, yeah. Well, why is that getting money for free and that's okay for an accident of birth? But if you're in society and you're down at heel, you've lost your job, you've accidentally got pregnant, you've done something in your life, you've made one bad decision. It's not just if your business fails. You just do one bad decision. Fall in love with the wrong person. Jesus Christ. Your whole world falls apart. There's millions of people in the UK and the US in toxic relationships, and they can't leave because they've got nowhere to go, because society's not looking out for them. When I was in the US a few years ago, before I got banned, I was in LA, and I went on the tube line. They've only got one line there. But I went on the tube line, and as I was walking out, I saw a guy at the side, and oh my God, he looked like Freddy Krueger. His face was all melted like pizza cheese, and his hands were all melted, and he had a little cardboard sign, and it said, "Burnt in a fire, please help." Now, I've seen that in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I've seen that in Bangladesh. I have not seen that in an advanced economy. And it shocked me to my core that in the richest country in the world, a man can be burnt in a fire and society will just walk past him on the subway. I just found it absolutely sickening and remarkable in a way, because of the selfishness of the people in power and the people who vote for them. Because the takeaway of this is this: whoever wins in this election, and I'm hoping it's going to be Biden, but it won't detract from the fact that 70 million people voted for a man who admitted sexually assaulting women, a man that laughed at people in the army and called them suckers for dying for their country, a man who put children in cages, a man who separated over 500 children from their parents, and those children are now orphans. And yet 70 million people voted for him. And this is the big issue now. How do we deprogram a nation? The US and the UK. How do you do it? The US, I don't know. The UK, there's a cure for Brexit, and it's called the dissolution of the United Kingdom, which is coming. Scotland's going to leave. Northern Ireland's going to be reunited with the Republic of Ireland, quite rightly. And Wales is going to look at this and go, fuck this, we're out of here. And they're going to rejoin the EU. And it's going to be England left on its own. Maybe then people might learn their lesson. But I have my doubts. America, though, man, it needs a root and stem reform of its media, of its political culture, of its political system. It's going to be so difficult. It's a long road for America to go down. And I don't know really what the answer is, because I'm looking at the counts now, and it's not looking like the Democrats are going to take the Senate. So everything that the new president wants to do, if it is Joe Biden, is just going to be blocked time and time again by the Senate. Even debates, they'll block him. For Senate results that have been called, it's 47-47 at the moment. Both the Democrats and the Republicans have gained one seat and lost one seat. We were hoping that the Democrats will at least get 50 seats, and then the vice president, which hopefully will be Kamala Harris, would be able to get the deciding vote. So essentially the Democrats will be running House of Representatives, the Senate, and the presidency, the executive. And then they can make the changes that need to be made in America in order to make it a fairer place. The deal with the states, where they're all going to get together and vote for whoever gets the popular vote. It's a brilliant idea. It means that the presidents in future will have to, or presidential candidates in future, will have to campaign across the entire nation and not just play to the crowd of the people in the swing states that they want to win. It will also mean that unless the Republicans change their ways, they're not going to win an election again, because as we've seen once again, the Republicans have lost the popular vote, as they did in 2016, as they did in 2012, as they did in 2008, as they did in 2000, and as they did in 1996 and 1992. So they'll have to change their ways in order to get that little bit more voting on their side, and then they would be able to get into power again. And that will mean softening their stance. They can't be as extreme as they are at the moment in order for that to work. The Senate needs sorting out, needs to get rid of the filibuster rule, which you don't need to change the Constitution in order to get rid of that. And Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. should be given statehood straight away. And that's another 4 seats for the Democrats, essentially. Again, it will force the Republicans to soften their hard line a little bit in order to make things go forward. But as things stand, Trump might still win this. I'm sorry to rain on everyone's parade from a big height like a big pissing god, but it's still looking a bit dicey for the states in America that are left. We've got 6 states that no one has projected for. Now, this is important. Trump today has been given all this shit about it's undemocratic to count votes for the presidency, which is a bit odd, and he wants to stop the vote. I mean, okay, well, let's stop it in Arizona then, and in Nevada, where Biden's ahead, and then Biden will just win the election. Or we could just continue counting because Trump is closing the gap in Arizona and he might win it. And Biden might not catch up in Georgia and he might not catch up in Pennsylvania. Now, the thing is, as I said, these results, when they come in, are projections. So what they are is when you have a news organization, they will say, okay, so they've counted 50% of the votes and the one candidate is 50% ahead of the other one. Realistically, the other candidate isn't going to win this because they're so far ahead, they can't catch them. Mathematically, it'd be improbable. And in those cases, they say, okay, we are going to project the winner of this state. And that's great because you can do that. And then usually you're right. Occasionally, you will project a bit too early, which we think Fox News has done, and Associated Press have done, I think it's Associated Press, have done with Arizona. They've actually called it, projected it for Biden when actually it's going to come down to the wire. He might not actually win it. What matters is the electors. Now, what worries me at the moment is that you've got all these electors, right? So each state gets so many electors depending on the size of the state, plus 2 for the 2 senators. And so somewhere like California has 55 electors, whereas somewhere like Wyoming has 3. Okay, so it was hardly anyone lives there. At the moment, we have a bit of a problem because if Biden only wins Nevada and Arizona, yeah, he will be technically president-elect. Great. However, he'll only have 470 votes. And what worries me is in the last election, certain people who were electors for their state became faithless electors and didn't vote for Trump, voted for Hillary Clinton or someone else instead. Didn't matter because Trump had won by X amount. But when you've only won by 1 vote, which is pretty much what it is, if that vote goes the other way to Trump, then Trump wins the presidency. And I don't know what mechanisms there are to stop a faithless elector from doing that. And that worries me a lot. So, I've not got much sleep this week, I have to admit, and I don't think I'm going to get much more anytime soon. We're seeing a few more results coming in. It's narrowing slightly in Arizona, but we haven't had any new results for several hours now. Nevada, we haven't had any new results in Nevada since 1:19 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I say EST, it's just ET, isn't it? Eastern Time. Meanwhile, in Georgia, they have counted 98% of the votes, and it's really narrow. There's 9,000 votes now separating Trump and Biden. All of the results coming in at the moment are heavily for Biden. So he might just poke his nose over the edge by the end. Meanwhile, Pennsylvania has only got 93% of the vote in. It's still got 7% left. And the gap there is closing as well. It's less than 100,000 now. You're looking at about 90,000 between Biden and Trump, and that gap is closing all the time as these mail-in votes come in. But Trump has completely upended everything, as we knew he would do, by saying that he wants to stop the votes because they're all going to the wrong person, which isn't how democracy works, Donald, you twat. So I want to wrap this up at past. So I'm going to quickly go through the live chat messages. Let me just click on this. I'm not being rude. I'm just clicking on my laptop. I'm actually making the text a bit bigger because I honestly have. I don't want to be squinting into the screen to see it. Yeah, birds of a feather, Trump and Bojo from David. Yeah, I agree, mate. Very much so. God, no. Oh God, what now? Nice plug for the podcast. Yeah, you noticed that. Well done. Thanks, Nick. That's the new Romaniacs podcast. It's called Oh God, What Now? Wayne says cheers, because I just did a podcast with Wayne. Cheers. The Bin Men podcast. It's very good. You should watch it. I'm in it this week. If you didn't watch it live, you can still watch it now. Which presidential election is less boring, Ivory Coast or the US? Well, the Ivory Coast is, that when I went there, it was still on a bit of a knife edge. There was a civil war that had been raging fairly recently. Actually, when I came into Ivory Coast, I went into rebel territory. So the north of the country, I think, is more predominantly Muslim, and the south of the country is predominantly Christian. Similar situation in old Sudan. That's why South Sudan split away. It was Christian and animist, and the north was Muslim. Similar situation in Nigeria, where the northern states are very predominantly Muslim and the southern states are predominantly Christian. It's almost as though they didn't draw their own borders on the maps. It's almost as though someone drew those borders who wanted the people in those countries to, I don't know, fight amongst themselves, so they weren't fighting the empire that was telling them what to do. Hashtag just saying. But yeah, so the Ivory Coast is, I wouldn't want to be in the Ivory Coast when there's an election going on. Then again, I wouldn't want to be in the US while there's an election going on. I was in Gabon once when there was an election, when the late Omar Bongo, who had just passed away, and the person who was going to take his place after he died, after being in charge of the country for about 40 years, I think, was Ali Bongo, not the children's magician from the 1980s, but actually a guy called Ali Bongo, who was the son of the president of Gabon. And yeah, he won. What are the chances, eh? Presidencies. Okay, so if more people are interested in politics, surely that's a good thing. Brits have been and still are politically ignorant in large numbers. Nick, I agree to an extent, but I think that if people feel passionately about something they know very, very little about, that's a problem. And that's what's happening. People aren't going, do your research, especially about COVID. Do your research. And when they say that, they don't mean, go and do a course, go and do an undergraduate degree in epidemiology or in, viral studies. They mean go to YouTube and watch some YouTube videos that they've watched. That's your research. Like, did you not want me to do a PhD in microbiology? No. Do a PhD in microbiology. When I say do your research, I don't mean that. Oh, well, should I listen to someone who's got a PhD in microbiology? No, don't listen to an expert. I found a video on YouTube, he says, ironically being on YouTube at this moment, and it's amazing, and oh, Jesus. So Gaz says, evening from Wavertree. Hi, Gaz. How you doing? I think I sent a book to you, didn't I? Nick R says, something is rattling. Are you using a glass table vibrations? Sorry. I don't know why that is. Does it sound really bad? It might just be me looking around my laptop, which is down here. John Barnicon said there's a study, they looked at votes cast between 2000 and 2014. They've looked at over 1.5 billion votes and found 31 cases of fraud. And I'm not just reading this and going, yeah, I'm going to go with John on that. It's actually true, because I've read about that as well. Brian said, I will be able to let a breath out after January the 6th. Until then, even if Biden is declared as getting 270 plus, nothing decided. Yeah, Brian's got a point there, because that's when I think the electors go to Washington and actually say this is who we're going to vote for. Mike says, go-to response from people defending the EC voter suppression is, we're a republic, not a democracy, which really goes to show how much the US education system has failed. Yeah, true. But at least they don't have a queen, eh? At least they don't have a king who's absolutely above the law and can do anything that he wants, and no one can bring him up on it or put him in court or jail for his crimes. That would be rubbish, wouldn't it? Don't leave out Farage. Yeah, he can go fuck himself to death as well. I'd love to hear more travel stories, Graham. Johnson and Trump are getting away with murder, entitled shit. Yes, Gaz, you're absolutely right. I'll try and throw in as many travel stories as I can in these, but obviously I'm going to be doing this for the next month, so wouldn't worry about it. I'm coming up to the end of my time now. It's been half an hour already. Oi, we're all here. He needs a weekly radio show. You talk about me? Oh, thanks, Donald. Yes, it's a good idea. Send that idea into LBC and say, hey, I hear you got 17 presenters. And nearly every single one is a male, apart from Sheila Fogarty. And nearly everyone went to private school as well on LBC. Kind of annoys me a bit, but just putting it out there. But I think I wouldn't want to be on LBC because of the fact that there is only one woman. I think Boris Johnson's sister was there for a bit, but she's pissed off now. So it's just Sheila Fogarty, and everyone else on that station is a man. And I just find that abhorrent in this day and age. So no, if they offer me a job, I'll probably say, can we start up a sister station? Irony. All right. So Brenna says hi from the Bin podcast. Hello, the Bin. Get on to the Bin raid. Jartan says, I wish there were more unicorns in this stream. Unicorns! I got my unicorn. Right. Okay. Enough of that. Vietnam vets get no help either. They do if they're in Vietnam. Ironically enough, Couch Stripper is saying, I don't care for soldiers at all. They're working class traitors because they take money to kill people and they've never met. Fuck them. Okay, yeah. Isn't that a Bill Hicks gag where he says you're basically trained assassins? Yeah, don't talk to me about like morality or something. Yeah. It's a difficult one because sometimes the army, if it's used for good, it can be a good thing. And I know this is a bit of a controversial opinion, maybe in left-wing circles, but especially in somewhere like Kosovo or in Sierra Leone, where civil conflict, there's fuck all that the UN can do about civil conflicts because it's sworn not to. It's like the first directive or whatever. I'm saying that wrong, aren't I? Star Trek, the thing that they say, the prime directive is don't interfere in the cultures of these planets. And every week they go and see a planet and the moon's about to explode or something. They're like, oh, we should tell these people. I'm like, no, the prime directive, we can't tell them. You just have to let them die. And like, oh, that's kind of morally dubious, isn't it? So there have been occasions when an army has been used for good. Unfortunately, that is overshadowed by the times when armies were used to do evil things that were completely mental and made no sense whatsoever, like the invasion of Iraq, for instance. Just pulling something out there. Okay, Doorknobhead says, how to get into power. Be selfish to screw people over on the regular. Power is like welfare for people who do fuck all otherwise. Yep, it is. I honestly, what are Boris Johnson's talents apart from being a liar? What are Michael Gove's talents apart from being a liar? No, Dominic Cummings, super forecaster. He forecasted COVID by changing his blog to say that he forecasted it afterwards, and he didn't see the second wave coming. No one could see that. Nadine Dorries said, "Oh, yeah, no one could. You need a crystal ball to know that this was going to happen, even though everyone was saying it was going to happen." Yeah, since like the beginning of the summer, they were like, "Oh, there'll be a second wave in winter." There's like a little old lady lives down the road. She's like, "There'll be a second wave in winter," and Nadine Dorries is like, "Oh my god, where'd you keep your crystal balls?" I'm a bit mad. Turned to my stomach that Maine returned Susan Collins. Yeah, absolutely disgraceful. Susan Collins is just absolute vile person. And Maine is supposed to be this progressive place where, killer clowns go around with balloons and Shawshank Redemption happens and, I don't know, Stephen King. Successful, needful things. Successful politics now just means telling people the lies they want to hear. Yep. Arizona governor cannot certify electoral votes as long as he claims that there is still unresolved controversy concerning the election. Bollocks. Trump's hairdo. I was just saying on the other podcast that I'd really quite like it if Trump got the news that he definitely lost this election. He definitely lost. And he wasn't going to be president anymore. And then he had a heart attack and died. And the last thing that he thought, before he died, was like, I'm a loser. And then a dog comes in and pisses on him and goes out in the Oval Office. That's what I'd like. And it's Biden's dog. Brilliant. Rata Baguetta says, hi, Graham. Cheers from Italy. Hi, ciao. How's it going? With Pennsylvania, you have two large cities, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. Their counts are going to lag behind. It's Pittsburgh named after William Pitt, or is it named Pittsburgh after all the coal pits that were there? We need to know. Someone leave a comment. There's a place near me here in Durham called Pity Me. I'm not kidding. It's called Pity Me, two separate words. And they reckon that was because there was a coal pit there, and they thought it was funny. Let's call it this. Not my most favoritist name of a place ever. I think that I'm a little bit torn between Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, I think. Also, Lake Disappointment in Australia, which is usually dry. So they turn up and go, I walked 1,000 miles to find this lake. Bit of a disappointment. What should we call it? I think there's also a Mount Misery in Australia. But my favorite place name, apart from shit in Iran, and it is a place in Pitcairn Island, which is called just Oh Dear. Brilliant. Best name for a place ever. Don't know what happened there, but I think it was bad. I love the story of Pitcairn Island because basically that's where the mutiny on the Bounty people landed. And there's all these stories about the mutiny on the Bounty and a lot of the second book in the series called Men Against the Sea. But hardly anyone's done anything like TV show wise. It'd make a great TV series, I think. The first series could be about the Bounty mutiny. The second series could be about Captain Blad's amazing voyage in a launch in just like a small dinghy, essentially, that he managed to navigate thousands of miles from Polynesia to Kupang in West Timor. And he only lost one person along the way because they stopped off in Fiji and someone killed him. But everyone else survived the journey. It's remarkable. But then the third book is called Pitcairn Island, and it's about the life of Pitcairn Island. And what's really amazing is it took the British Navy about 10 years or so to find where these mutineers were hauled up. And they were searching all over the place, looking for them. They finally found them, and there was only one mutineer left alive. All the rest had either been killed, murdered, killed themselves, just absolute anarchy on this island. And I'm just thinking, like, that would be a great idea for a TV show. It's just telling that story. What the fuck happened there? It was John Adams, I think the name is John Adams, and he was there on his own with all these children who were the children of the mutineers. And they were like, where's the rest of the mutineers? And he's like, they're all dead. And they're like, oh, well, we're going to have to take you into custody. He goes, well, who's going to look after the children then? And they were like, oh, okay, then. I left him there. True story. Right. Oh, God, it's 7 minutes over my time. It's almost like you're saying colonialism is bad, Graham. Its sins outweigh its merits. Let's just put it that way. Luke saying with Pennsylvania. Oh, he said that. Well, if Trump wins, we'll be instructed to totally isolate ourselves from the rest of Europe so that we can totally rely on America. That's correct. We will be a little puppy sucking on America, the bitch's teeth. I can't taste tea because I've had COVID. I can't taste tea. This is what tea tastes like. This is what it tastes like in other countries in the world where they use Lipton yellow label tea. And this is why the Americans don't drink tea. This is why the Australians don't drink tea. This is why the Europeans who are not British don't drink tea, because they get yellow label Lipton tea and it just tastes of hot water. It tastes like proper tea when you've got COVID. I feel your pain, rest of the world. Hey, Graham, some Christian saying, since we all know more or less what to expect from Trump, what do you expect from a Biden presidency? Number one, the fucking Paris Climate Change Agreement, COP, fucking rejoin it and lead it. That's what I expect from it. I want him to lead it. I also want the other things that were mentioned about statehood for Puerto Rico and statehood for Washington, D.C. Aside from the sort of the mechanics and things, I want a detoxification of American culture. That would be quite nice. I want strong and steady leadership. I don't want to wake up each day going on what fresh hell is this? I want him to expand affordable healthcare, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, to cover everybody instead of the people that are missing. You know, it misses out people at the moment who are on low income. I want a Social Security improved. I want America's relations with the rest of the world rebuilt, especially with NATO and the other NATO countries, mostly part of the EU. I want to see relations with Mexico and Canada reestablished. I want America to basically be a force for good in the world again. And I think he's going to find it very difficult, to be honest with you. If he doesn't win the Senate, anything he tries to do in that sort of side of things is going to be very difficult. So maybe a bit more internationalism, more intervention in peacekeeping, not peacekeeping, but peacemaking, especially around Palestine and Israel, Eritrea, Libya, Syria. Try and get some kind of peace agreements signed up, be the force behind that. Get these dickheads out of the UN from the UN Human Rights Committee. We've got Russia on there, we've got Saudi Arabia, fuck off. I would like a new relationship with the UK where they kind of say, hey, why don't you join the EU and let's talk? That'd be a good thing to say. I want a ban on assault weapons in America. I'm, old and grumpy enough to know that I'm not going to be able to take everyone's, handguns off them, but assault rifles, they can definitely do something about that, I think. Although you've got to wonder how many massacres America's got to have before it wakes up. I would like to see expanded equal rights provisions. I want to push for the Equal Rights Amendment of 1973 to be ratified by the final remaining 2 states, or however many it needs, so that can go through and actually be an amendment to the Constitution. And I want to see him take, first and foremost, COVID seriously and do what the scientists say and stop so many people from dying of stupidity and inaction and indifference, which is what's happening at the moment under Trump. Okay, so David Bannon says there's also a watch here in Iowa. I like that. Watch. Washington near Seattle. The capital of Washington is Olympia. Wayne says outside Colchester there's a town called Fingering Hoe. That was probably named after a woman who lived there and sold her body for favors. I went to a place in Cuba called Maria del Gorda, which means Fat Maria, or Maria the Fat, and she was a very famous prostitute in that part of Cuba. When she died, they named the town after her because they loved her so much. There you go. There's a place in Newcastle called Wide Open. I drove there from Berlin for a wedding. Nigel Farage would attack him if Bly were in a dinghy. He would. Is Nigel Farage a real human? No, he has no humanity. He's an alien in a human skin suit, which explains his looks. In Germany, there's quite a sizable town called Linskeret, which translates to lentil dick. Intercourse. We're getting some great stuff here. Get you with the Harry Potter mug. Yeah, this is I put the rave in Ravenclaw. No, not funny. No. I put the Huff in Hufflepuff. Right, where are we? Lipton's everywhere. I noticed that in India, where they have lovely masala chai. Yes, Gaz, masala chai is the best, especially when it's on a train and it's in one of those massive canteens. It's been stewing all day, and they put a bit of cinnamon in there, a bit of sugar, and a bit of spice, and God, it tastes good. I think Biden isn't exactly a progressive. Yes, UBI. I would love to see UBI. First brought to attention by a major politician in the 1970s, I think, by, surprisingly, Richard Milhouse Nixon. It was Nixon who suggested UBI as an actual thing that should happen. And I do think, going back to what I said earlier about setting up a business or trying to do something with your life and having that fear of being out on the streets or not having enough food or being destitute, that fear will be taken away for everybody, not just for the rich, not just for the well-connected, but for everybody. Not saying Reagan was awesome, but our foreign policy's been awful forever. Yes. Biden can flush Betsy DeVos down the toilet. It'd be worth it just for that. Graham, that was the name of a town in Washington. Yep. I read that, guys. I was sorry, I might not have said it, but I read it. Rata says, regarding Trump, 4 years of laugh are too much. Time to put a stop to this shit show. You're absolutely right, Rata. And finally, we've got Luke. I'm going to have to end it there, saying Andrew Lang, a Democratic Party candidate, ran on UBI. So yeah, if the Democrats take control of the Senate, it's going to be our last word tonight. If they take control of the Senate, then they can do a lot of things domestically in America. If Biden wins and doesn't take control of the Senate, he won't have much power to do anything in America. It'll just be gridlocks. Anything tries to go forward will not get forward. It's going to be very difficult to get bipartisan support for any issue. However, he will have a lot of power when it comes to foreign policy, external policy. America is still the biggest economy in the world. It still wields a lot of power. So the biggest military and the biggest nuclear arsenal. Well, apparently Russia's bigger, but I mean, they're all based on floppy disks these days. So I don't know if they're actually any good anymore. But the point is that I want America under Biden to lead the world in the fight against climate change, because we have to get fucking serious, fucking fast, because half of the Great Barrier Reef is dead. The Amazon is on fire. California is on fire. Australia is on fire. We are losing species at a rate not seen for 65 million years. There's more parts per million in the atmosphere now than there has been since the entirety of the existence of humanity. And it's worrying because the climate's going to change so fast and so quick. And we have seen with COVID how bad our leaders are at reacting to bad shit that's happened. They're bloody awful. And so reacting to something that is a few years away still is going to be an absolute arse, because they're going to react too late. And when they do react, it's going to be too little, too late. You're going to look at the situation and go, oh shit, what can we do about this? And by then, so many tipping points would have been hit. So I think this is the most important thing that Biden needs to do if he wins the presidency. Let's just have a look at the figures. Have they changed? No, Nevada's not changed. Arizona hasn't changed. Georgia, it's narrowed, but it's still 9,000 between them. And Pennsylvania, again, it's still narrowing, but it's still 90,000, which it was at the beginning of this podcast. But Biden needs to do something about the environment. America needs to lead the world, join up with the EU countries, join forces with China on this issue. And those three, because they're the big three superpowers of the world right now, China, the EU, and the US, they need to say, right, we need to take this fucking seriously. Because if we don't, we're not going to be having this conversation in 80 years' time. Because although we won't be here because we'll be dead, our children and our grandchildren might well still be here at that time. And this planet is going to be largely uninhabitable for that many people. And there's no two ways about it. All right, I'm going to get going now. So thank you for joining me, all 45 of you. Hello. And obviously this is available to watch again once I sign off, so you can watch it on repeat if you missed the bit at the beginning. I will be here again tomorrow night, and I'll try and be a little bit more professional and swear less, I guess, but it is past the watershed. That's all right. And yeah, thank you very much for joining me. This has been the Hughes at 10, and I will see you very, very, very soon. In fact, in about 24 hours or so. Bye-bye.